Feeling a little unsettled and stressed with the way things are in our world? Experience the peace of Jesus with Finding Peace, our 5-day devotional. Visit purposely.com to sign up. Purposely. Your life, God's purpose. Listen at purposely.com.
How would you define power or powerful? Sit with that for a minute. Or maybe, what do you associate with power? Who would you consider to be someone who is powerful? Is it having the most money or resources that makes you powerful? Having the right role or title? Maybe your abilities? What about influence? How does someone have the most influence? Is it by force or by inspiration or example? Hey, this is Jen. You're listening to the Bible for Busy People podcast, where every weekday we get together and we take just a little amount of time in our busy days to focus on the Word of God and let it sink into our hearts so that we can have it on our hearts and minds and then live it out throughout the day. This week and last, we've been talking about fruit of the Spirit, and today we are talking about gentleness, another word that I feel has so much more richness when you look at the meaning and at comparable scriptures. So the Greek word for gentleness is prautés, meaning mildness, humility, and meekness. Help's Word Study calls it gentle strength and adds, for the believer, meekness begins with the Lord's inspiration and finishes by His direction and empowerment. It is a divinely balanced virtue that can only operate through faith. It also calls meekness gentle force. A form of this word, prautés, is used in the Beatitudes in Matthew 5. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth. And we've already talked about the Beatitudes. If you want to go back and listen to that episode, you absolutely should. And I don't know about you, but I can fall for our society's thinking that meekness equals weakness. But something I'm learning in my own life is that gentle strength is infinitely stronger, more resilient, and solid than its opposite. The opposite of gentle, I would say, are the words harsh, rough, sharp, rigid, reactive, forced, or unyielding. We can believe that lacking certainty or being open to having your mind changed is a weakness. But the Bible warns against hardened or calloused hearts. It talks about that in Matthew 13, verse 15, Mark 8, verse 17, Ephesians 4, verse 18, and Hebrews 3, verses 7 through 19. When we remain soft and gentle, we are open to seeing from God's perspective, which is so unlike our own. We really do have to have soft hearts and not rigid hearts to be able to see like God sees and align ourselves with God's will and God's perspective. It helps us to be open to learning the many, many things in this universe that we don't know or understand. And it opens us up to understanding life differently from just our own experiences. It allows us to be humble, empathetic, and continually growing. It falls in line with the concepts we've already talked about that are intertwined: true kindness, peace, goodness, and love. Jesus exemplified for us gentle strength. Now we know He flipped tables. He could be fierce, He could be indignant and angry when called for, but His strength and His rule as a king are gentle. Matthew 21 shows this in verses 1 through 11, and we've read it before on this podcast, but I want to go through this passage again because it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful picture of who Jesus is. It says, as they approached Jerusalem and came to Bethphage on the Mount of Olives, Jesus sent 2 disciples, saying to them, go to the village ahead of you, and at once you will find a donkey tied there with her colt by her. Untie them and bring them to me. If anyone says anything to you, say that the Lord needs them, and He will send them right away. This took place to fulfill what was spoken through the prophet. Say to daughter Zion, see, your king comes to you gentle and riding on a donkey and on a colt, the foal of a donkey. The disciples went and did as Jesus had instructed them. They brought the donkey and the colt and placed their cloaks on them for Jesus to sit on. A very large crowd spread their cloaks on the road, while others cut branches from the tree and spread them on the road. The crowds that went ahead of him and those that followed shouted, Hosanna to the Son of David. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. Hosanna in the highest heaven. When Jesus entered Jerusalem, the whole city was stirred and asked, "Who is this?" The crowds answered, "This is Jesus, the prophet from Nazareth in Galilee." And we know that he was so much more than that. Jesus was, as we've talked a lot about on this podcast, not the kind of king that the Jews expected. He was not the Messiah that they were looking for. But again, Jesus was infinitely more powerful in his gentle strength. He wasn't distracted or swayed by gaining power, proving his point, or getting the upper hand. He surrendered to God's will and came to serve and not be served. And we see him engaging with those most in need of compassion and connection. We also have words that we've gone back to several times, even in this series. Matthew 11, verses 28 through 30, which says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Gentleness and humility go hand in hand. Jesus gives as the reason that we can depend on him the fact that he is gentle and humble in heart. And the promise is that with him we can find rest. The Enduring Word Commentary puts it this way: the word has the idea of being teachable, not having a superior attitude, not demanding one's rights. It isn't timidity or passiveness. It is the quality of the man who is always angry at the right time and never at the wrong time, which that last line is a quote from William Barclay. All of this describes Jesus, and it can describe us too, thanks to the work that the Spirit is doing within us. I love Paul's challenge for us in Ephesians 4, verses 1 through 7. "As a prisoner for the Lord, then, I urge you to live a life worthy of the calling you have received. Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing with one another in love. Make every effort to keep the unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There is one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope when you were called. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. But to each one of us, grace has been given as Christ apportioned it." A worthy life to Paul meant living out what the Spirit is growing in us. Gentleness, also patience, love, peace, kindness, and so many more. Gentleness comes from being one with God, and it looks like being one with each other. How can we practice, cultivate, and live in gentleness? And I wonder if that starts with changing our attitudes about gentleness. If we feel like gentleness is weak, maybe we need to change our perspectives about that. I'll let you sit with that today and come back here tomorrow for our last fruit of the Spirit, self-control. I just want to take a minute to thank our sponsor, Cannon Beach Conference Center. As a fellow busy person, I think I speak for all of us when I say we all could use a break. Cannon Beach Conference Center provides the perfect coastal backdrop for a number of refreshing, restoring, and equipping conferences. And it's also an ideal place to host your church or ministry retreat. Get more details by calling 800-745-1546 or visiting cbcc.net.
Thank you for listening to The Bible for Busy People. If you need prayer or want to go deeper in your faith, visit our show notes. Will you take a moment to share with a friend and leave a review? It helps the Bible get into even more people's minds and hearts. Find more podcasts that will recharge you at purposely.com.
Thanks for listening. We just wanted to take a minute to let you know that just like you and your family, Purposely is also part of a family, the Krista Family of Ministries. Krista helps kids and teens learn and grow in their faith at King Schools and Miracle Ranch Camp. And Krista shares Jesus with people in the poorest, most remote places through World Concern. Krista Senior Living is a community of love and care, and Krista Media is a place of hope on the radio. God is changing lives through these 5 ministries, and Krista is on mission to share the good news of Jesus. To learn more, visit krista.org.